You're listening to Carrie Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. Well, we've got a special guest for you, author of the book, Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. And we're going to find out more what that's about by Judy Wilkins-Smith. Judy, it's great to have you on the show. So Decode Your Money DNA. You got all these habits that you picked up from your parents, who picked it up from their parents, and on and on. I'm sure some of them came when they were on the boat over here from wherever godforsaken place they might have been coming from. And we've all got our own unique DNA. What do you do about it?
Yeah. So what you do about it is, of course, the first step always is to be willing to look, right? So what do I think about money? What do I feel about money? What are the actions I take around money? Because we think we're super complex, but when you sit down and listen to yourself, it's really not that difficult. So when you ask yourself those three questions, then what you want to do is ask yourself, so when did my thoughts, feelings, and actions around money begin? What was happening in my life at the time? How has that affected me? What did I make it mean about me? And what did I make it mean about others? And who else in the family may have a similar pattern? Then you begin to identify your money DNA. Now, of course, really large events, global events, trigger meta patterns. So you have something like the Great Depression, and all of a sudden you've got those who really thrive and those who really don't. And each one of those is going to kick off a different set of patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions. And that then imprints onto your nervous system or onto the system and becomes the way that you act and react around money. So if you've got a really dicey one, it doesn't matter how much money tries to be a friend, you can't even see it.
Right. So it's unconscious, and you wind up with unconscious behavior, you make mistakes, and you really wind up not being in charge of your destiny, if you will, right?
Exactly. Then it becomes a fate. Exactly. Fate instead of a destiny. Which one do you choose, right? So that money DNA is super, super important. And again, it's the events. In fact, it's not the event. It's the decisions about the event. Because you can have the identical event, and the decisions you make about it are what are going to determine whether you succeed or fail.
So true. So true. And so I guess it all starts with a self-evaluation process, right?
Self-evaluation, and if you've got the history of it, your family system evaluation, because once you have that, you can begin to see what the patterns are, and you can also begin to see what needs and wants to change. The reason you have patterns in families is they echo down because they haven't been resolved, and they're looking to you to be the one who begins to bring change. The other thing that's super important that starts to change things for you is to realize that money isn't a commodity, it's a relationship. And the way you show up around money is the way it's going to show up for you.
I see. All right. So let's unpack that a little bit. It's a relationship. So relationships are built on beliefs, right?
Absolutely. Relationships are built on those patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions, which then become a mindset and a belief. And then we say, this is the truth, but it's not. It's just your truth. And you can change that anytime you want to.
So it's an attitude here. It's a perception about yourself and your relationship to money. They always say money can't buy happiness, but it'll do till the real thing comes along, right?
And you know what? Money, that's the other piece. We talk about either money or love or money, happiness or money. It's not. Money is an and, not an or. And it's a couple of things. It's a good friend, it's a great mentor, and it's a wise disciplinarian. But you've got to be willing to play with it.
Okay. And of course, when we're looking at money, it's got to be kept in perspective, right? It's got to really, it's important, but it isn't life, right?
It's important, but it isn't life. But then everything is important and isn't life, and it is life. So it's more than anything, money is flow, and it's an enabler and an empowerer. And I wish I could remember who it was. I'll have to go and look. But there's a gentleman who said, what if we were taught from a very early age that appreciation or understanding of money is not an affliction, but one of the highest ways to serve humanity by eliminating poverty, illness, and unkind circumstances. And it's so right. There's so much good that we can do with money. It's when we start to embody those beliefs that love of money is the root of all evil. No, it's not. Lust of money, maybe. Love of money, no. It means you're being a wise steward, and money looks for wise stewards. And it means you're paying it attention just like you would health, love, or happiness. It's really no different. We've made it different.
Okay. So if you don't have enough money, what are 3 things you can do right now based on your book to get it?
Okay, you don't have enough. You want to go and have a look at what you say about money. A lot of people will say, I just need enough to get by. Good, that's what you're going to get. Or, if I make it paycheck to paycheck, I'm good. Well, then that's the mindset. So you've really got to start rewiring your brain. What are the things that you say about it? How do you feel about it? And again, what are the actions? So the one thing that you can do that absolutely shifts it is to have one new thought, one new feeling, one new action. So instead of, I'm just going to make it till the end of the month and then it's gone. I don't care if you take $1 or $2 and put it in a jar. It's not gone. Now you have a different thing and it goes, I had $2 left at the end of the month. I wonder what else I could do. The minute you kickstart into what's possible, you begin to orient your brain to, hey, I can actually play with money. I can be a friend to money. Money can be a friend to me. I'm allowed to look at it. We have a lot of taboos around looking at money. Something's going to smite you. Stop with the taboos.
Hey, so what's worth, they say money is the root of all evil, which is a misstatement of a principle. It's love of money, I guess.
Lust
What a
of money.
love money.
Love of money. Love of money is beautiful. Lust of money, difficult.
Yes. And like we're saying, really, it's a tool. Money's a tool, right? It's not an end in itself. Yes, it's nice to have enough in the bank so you don't have to work for the rest of your life. Everybody wants that. But it's a tool not necessarily to buy happiness, but to buy things that you need money to buy, like food, like shelter, like a retirement, like an education for your children, right? So it's not a goal in and of itself, I guess, is what we're saying here.
I think it's not necessarily an end goal, because even if you said, I want to have 10 million, that's my goal. The question is, what are you going to do with that 10 million? Why do you want the 10 million? And underneath that, when you unpack it, you actually begin to understand what money enables for you. So it's an enabler and an empowerer. It's flow. Like I said, it's a good friend if you want it to be. And we've got to get rid of many, many centuries of thoughts that are contrary to that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I remember a movie I was watching one time, Boiler Room, and the guy's giving a pitch, a greed pitch for the aspiring brokers. And he says, anybody who says that money is unimportant doesn't have it, doesn't have any, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fairly accurate statement. I think sometimes we want to say it's not important because then we feel better because we've been taught that you shouldn't make it important. But here's the deal. Think about what happens, and I ask people this all the time. If you got a lot of money tomorrow, what's the first thing that you would do after you've made sure that it's safe? You're going to want to share it.
Right. You
The
can't,
more you have, the more
right.
you share.
Yes. Couldn't agree with you more. That's such a great point. And right. So effectively what you're saying here is that your attitude towards money, your relationship towards money determines how much you have, whether you don't have enough or whether you have too much. What about people who are making a lot of money? Something happens to the business, then they lose it all. Then their relationship towards money changes, right?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Torque Resources is an exploration company establishing a portfolio of premier copper gold early stage projects in Chile. Torque's management and technical teams have a strong track record of raising capital, discovery, and monetization of exploration successes. The company's Margarita Copper Gold project is located within the prolific coastal Cordillera Belt in Chile, which hosts some of the world's largest and most profitable copper mines. The Margarita project possesses excellent discovery potential for a major copper discovery due to the strength of the alteration system, large-scale magnetic targets, and the presence of copper oxide mineralization. Drilling is anticipated to begin in Q3 of this year. Torque trades in Canada under TORQ and on the OTC under TRBMF. To learn more, go to torqueresources.com. That's torqueresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network. The information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, here's the thing, though. It may also be, and I've seen this, they make a ton of it and suddenly for no reason they do exactly what you said and they lose the lot. If we go looking in their family system, you will quite often find that that's happened before and they are repeating a pattern. So if you're busy working with money, you really want to have a look at what lives in my family system with respect to money, because otherwise you're prone to some of the same U-turns. However, if your eyes wide open, when that U-turn comes at you, you already know about that U-turn. You go, we're doing this differently. So you prepare differently. You act differently around it. You don't fold. It doesn't all go away. But if you have that in your family and it hasn't been resolved, it can absolutely repeat through you.
So how do you resolve that pattern? How do you get rid of it?
It's really by noticing what it is. So I have a client who comes and says to me, you know what, my money's really doing well, but we have an absolute thing in the family. People lose it, make it and lose it, make it and lose it. So we have a look at who was the original one who made it. Well, my great-grandfather made it all, and then the Great Depression came, and he said, you know what, there's no point in saving because you win it, you lose it, you win it, you lose it. Well, that's now echoed down and become a truth. And you need to unbuckle from that truth and go, instead of make it, lose it, make it, lose it, how about I make it, invest it, make it, invest it? So you set a different pattern in motion, but you want to look because it will probably be in your family system.
I love it. I mean, I can relate to that personally. My grandfather on the top of the world, Great Depression comes, wiped out. My other grandfather, however, made his fortune during the Great Depression. So we're a little schizophrenic there. And I myself, I'd like to say I've made 5 fortunes, lost 3.5 of them. But one thing I would just say is if you've really hit it, you've made money before, it's really easy just to do it again, isn't it?
I love that. And you're right, because now you're understanding the language of money. So if you've made it and you've kept 1.5, now you want to build it back past where it was before and then keep going. There's a lot of good stuff that you can do with that. And you can actually, the way for you to cancel out the idea of losing it again is to look at the grandfather or great-grandfather who lost it and say, that was you, and I see you, and you've given me the determination to get back up again because I don't want to wipe out like you did. Thank you. That takes care of your pattern. You've seen it, you've acknowledged it, you put it down, and now you're headed in this one. And the other great-grandfather, thank you, because in times of adversity, you've shown me how to rise up, and I know how to do that.
That's great. I love it. You know, so many of you out there are fearful of going broke, especially in bad economic times. I always say whether or not you join the recession or the depression, it's kind of a decision on your part to do
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I couldn't say it enough. It absolutely is. What are you going to do? I ask people, so what did you do during the pandemic? And a lot of them say, well, life was bad. We kind of sat around. But there are other people. I wrote my book during the pandemic because I figured out if I was locked up, I may as well do something useful with that time. It really is about life is a big adventure. Are you going to play the adventure or are you going to give up? Pick one.
And just personalizing it to myself, in 08 and 09, I was doing really well, business and all that. But the fear of the global meltdown really put me into a fear-based mentality. And I got into the thing of fearing that I was going to lose everything. And, that really, I did okay, but, I didn't do as well as I should have because I failed to see opportunities that the whole meltdown created. And, I said this time when the pandemic hit, I said, no, I'm doing it different. I'm not going to retreat into a fear-based mindset. I am going to only have an opportunity mindset. And the results were, diametrically opposed.
Spectacular, yes. What you just encapsulated beautifully is that when you went fear-based, you went into survival brain. So your frontal lobe, your opportunity brain, couldn't see a thing. It went blind.
Exactly.
This one was going, and you were dancing around like a chicken. This one had gone blind. But the minute you went, nope, we're not doing that, it woke straight up and it said, okay, guys, he's awake. Let's go play.
Yeah. And my business partner, I gave him a whole speech when it all hit during the pandemic. I said, this is our opportunity. We'll never have a better opportunity in our lives than right now to accomplish our goals. And literally within weeks of that discussion, everything took off and never looked back. Tried to help people who weren't doing as well, who were victims of it. But, I just saw that like Henry Ford said, if you think you can do it or you think you can't do it, either way,
you're right. Exactly. Exactly.
So
that's what this book is all about. It's about don't do that. Don't go to sleep. You don't have to be a victim. That is a choice.
Yes. I could not agree with you more, Judy. Really done a service writing this book. Really do appreciate it. And again, the book, you should go, I guess you could get it Amazon or wherever fine books used to be sold, is Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns, of which I wish I had seen the book 20 years ago, would have saved me a lot of grief.
Absolutely. But you have seen it now, and you have two great-grandfathers to thank for where you are now. And thank goodness you chose to keep your eyes open.
All right. And the website is Judy Wilkins, WILKINS-Smith.com. There's a link to it in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. If you've got a question for Judy or myself, you can shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And Judy, you're available for coaching sessions and work with clients on a regular basis?
I do. I actually coach many Fortune 500 and Fortune 50 executives and use this particular approach to do that.
Okay. So sometimes those negative thoughts, it's just a process. It could take you a while to get through them. I know it did for myself. It took a few years because generally when you start getting those thoughts, other things in your life will go wrong as well, whether it's kids, marriage, all that. That old saying, when it rains, it pours. I think that's what they were talking about. But once you can see yourself through all that, and I think the book will really help you do that, then the sky is the limit. I know for myself it has been. So again, anybody got a question for Judy, myself, kl@kerrylutz.com. And I'm going to be doing a podcast about this because can't emphasize enough, Judy, about what you're talking about here. Like where you go in your life really depends upon your attitude. your attitude towards money, your attitude towards others, your attitude towards yourself. All these things, right?
Everything. It depends on two things: understanding your history, even if you don't know how far back it goes, and then you're choosing to write the chapter that belongs to you. Absolutely. Attitude.
Hey, and, just what we're going through now, just to externalize it a bit, the banking crisis that's taking place, when you go back and you look at how we got bank insurance and all this, it teaches you a lot about where we are today, that there's nothing new here. This stuff happens on a regular basis. Man is flawed. Man's systems are even more flawed because they're a reflection of all of us, of you. And until we're perfect, we're going to be creating systems that blow up on a regular basis, usually according to a 14-year cycle. And 15-year, there's different opinions on that, but it is a cycle. And you need to break that cycle both for yourself and for society to move ahead. Really appreciate you coming on. Great luck on the book. We're definitely going to take a look at it, and we will talk to you again.
That sounds great. I'd love to be back, and thank you for having me. And I'm so glad you did what you did.
Thanks for listening to Carrie Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.